I'd like to call the meeting to order. Barbara, could you call the roll, please?
We have Commissioner Sales, Moss, and Parfrey present.
Thank you. That constitutes a quorum. I think you all know that this will be recorded on Channel 35. We're going to pass on the General Manager's report. The General Manager is in Sacramento testifying on the once-through cooling proceeding, which is obviously of critical importance to this department. So we'll move on to comments and requests for commissioners relating to DWP operations. Commissioner Parfrey.
Thank you, President Sales. For the last few days and into tomorrow, in our downtown area is the National Convention of the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners.
NARUC.
NARUC. Thank you. And so I know that the chances of a NARUC commissioner watching this broadcast are very slim. I would nonetheless like to extend a welcome to Los Angeles to our fellow commissioners from the IOU community.
That's a very good idea. The IOU community and the Muni community.
I don't believe LADWP is represented by NARUC.
No, we're not. We're not.
Yes.
Any other comments on operations? Okay. Public comment?
Okay, we do have a few cards for item 4. Please limit your comments to 2 minutes. The first card is Dr. Clyde Williams.
Good afternoon. Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, Northeast LA, also member of the LA 32 Neighborhood Council and DWP liaison. Thank you very much for all of the paint that we've been using. We've done about 300, 400 fire hydrants, and we're still doing them. The issue will be continuing supply because we have a continuing use. That's one thing. That's nitty-gritty, bottom up. Top down, the corporate strategic plan. This morning there was a discussion as to maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 different reviews of the proposed rates. I was an external auditor certified for ISO 9000 and ISO 14000. The first thing that we always looked to was, where's the corporate plan? Where's the strategic plan? DWP spent 2 years with Huron trying to come up with a strategic plan. Excuses then were, well, we're changing general managers so often that we don't want to constrain him. The next one. So we now have general manager, but where's the strategic plan, and how can you establish rates, hedging funds, all sorts of things for the next 3, 5, 10, 15 years without knowing what's the principles of this organization. And this morning there was a question as to, will it be rates or the environment? And this will eventually be the issue. How can you review rate increases if you don't know where you're going? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is John Camara.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. Nichols. It's time for change, and I want the department to hear the cries of the ratepayers. The ratepayers of the city are in distress. Just this morning, I spoke to a small business owner in my community, and his exact words were, "Give the DWP hell." As a business owner in the city of Los Angeles, each day it becomes more difficult to do business in the city of Los Angeles. As a member of the Van Nuys Neighborhood Council and as a representative of the ratepayers of this city, I'm here to say, hold yourselves accountable, cut costs, and serve the people. And Mr. Brown, out in Sacramento, wherever you are, shame on you. You will not intimidate me. Thank you.
you.
Okay, the next speaker is Candida Moretz.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mr. Nichols is not here today, but I want to thank him for the outreach that has taken place in the last few months. He came out to Van Nuys, and I was able to bring about 35 people out there where he greeted them, and I want to thank the staff, those of you, Mr. Daniels, all of you, and I apologize, I'm under a little pain, so I'm not feeling well right now, but the outreach and the communication and the efforts that were made by the department were outstanding. And so, you know, I want you to know that the people of this great city appreciate that. And, you know, I want to acknowledge those who are within this department who do everything they can to bring pride and joy to this department. There's a Miss Hayes. I had people call me and they tell me about they're complaining about things, but this person called me and said, you know, I made contact with the Department of Water and Power, and there was a woman by the name of Miss Hayes. I could not understand my DWP bill. And she said, this woman, Miss Hayes, broke it down to me and spent close to 45 minutes with me to explain so that I could understand where I might be going wrong with my increases. So that I could understand as a ratepayer that it might be my fault and not the Department of Water and Power. So Ms. Hayes, I don't know who you are or where you are, but if you're in this building, we thank you as a ratepayer for making, you know, it better for us as to understand what our bills are. Not only but her, but as I've told you in the past, Mr. Sales, is the people here that don't get the credit. The young lady, and I mentioned her name before, who works with our naval cadets out in the San Fernando Valley. This year we're going to have 4 of our cadets moving on to the Navy, and so again, I want to praise those efforts. But then I also want to say, let's cut out the cancer. Let's cut out the cancer. Those who are still here, who bring you are paying for the sins of those from the past, and so we're asking you to either change and realize that this is a new time. Even Rupert Murdoch had to go before a legislative body today and say, I humble myself before you, and I apologize for those things that have taken place under my leadership. So those of you who think that you're going to stand here and continue the insults to the ratepayers, that ain't going to happen. Because you know what? At one point, at one time, we all have to answer. And so, Mr. President, I thank you and your fellow board members for listening to us, for allowing us to speak. And for those of you who still think that you can still continue the practice, that's right, Mr. Wong. I want you to hear my words.
Can you wrap up your remarks, please? Your time is up.
With the practice, and I'm not directing that just at him, but when somebody turns away from me while we're speaking about the situation that takes place in this department, we're not here to make ourselves feel better. It's about what you folks are doing for us, that we want to make sure that in the future you're not punished for speaking out for saving the ratepayers' money. So again, we thank you for all the hard work that you do for us. But we can't solve the issues and the problems within the department unless we work together. Thank you, Mr. President, and I thank you for giving me time. One last thing, we're having an event in Van Nuys, the 100-year celebration. I'd like to leave the flyers and invite the department to set up a booth at that time. We're expecting close to 1,000 people. If we're doing outreach, I think this is a great time for the department to be there, not to give away things, but to explain and to so people can meet with you one-on-one, so they can see that you and I and we're all the same. So, if I may, and if we can have a representative from the Department of Water attend our event, we would appreciate it.
Thank you. Next speaker.
That's the last speaker for number 4.
Okay, we're on to the main agenda. We have speaker cards for items 6 through 10 and item 24. Items 21 and 24 are going to be deferred because Mr. Nichols is not here today. Why don't we have the...
Okay, we'll need a vote to defer, please.
Okay. Is there a motion to defer items 21 and 24?
So moved. Second.
Hearing no objections, the motion passes. Let's go through the consent agenda. Let's see if there are items the commissioners would like to pull. Right now, we've got cards on 6 through 10, so...
I would like to pull number 12, please.
Okay. 12, okay. 12's pulled.
And 13 as well.
Okay. That it?
None for me.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve item 5?
So moved.
Wait, 11?
7 through
No, 11, no.
10 and 11?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 5, 11, 14, and 15? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Is there a motion?
Oh, so moved.
Second.
Hearing no objections, motion passes. Okay. Let's start with let's hear the speaker on item 6.
Okay, there's one speaker card for items 6 through 10, and Mr. Candido Morez.
Again, thank you, Commissioners. This is in regards to contracts. I want to deal with contracts as a whole. Just to give you an example, you have one of the best restaurants down here in the first floor, whatever level, and now I'm told that the general public's not allowed to go there, and it's limited as far as who goes there, and it's also limited as far as time. Now, I know there's a contract with the vendor who holds that, but again, here we have this beautiful facility where the public could come and enjoy and be part of and meet the DWP employee so that we can have, some communication, but that's not happening. In regards to contracts and what's taking place, again, as the great commissioner, Mr. Pastores, said many years ago in 2005, 2006, that we're still a mom and pop. And, I'm not knocking the gentlemen that are in charge, but we still need to take a look at how we do business. It would be shameful, and maybe it's the restraints that are put on them, if we continue, because if you and I were business owners and we had the same process going on, we would be insulted by the fact that what's taking place with our contracts. And so I, again, will ask you, since I've asked you from 2004 about your practices and policies, you have your policies and you have your practices. They don't match up. Let's get those in line, and let's save the ratepayers some monies. Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, that was the only card for 6 through 10.
Is there a motion to approve items 6 through 10?
Ooh, wait a minute, I'd still like to talk about item 9.
Oh, I didn't know you wanted to pull
No,
that.
you
Yeah.
pulled 12 and 13 as
You
well.
didn't say 9.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were going to discuss 9 since it was
Okay.
off the consent calendar.
All right, so you want to pull 9?
Yeah, let's pull
Okay.
9.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to approve items 6, 7, 8, and 10?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no objections, pass. Let's go to item 9. Commissioner Moss?
Yeah, the question I is there someone,
Yeah, we'll get somebody. Who's going to present the item?
item 9?
Yes.
As I understand this is a request to amend the existing contract to extend it for 90 days because there's not a replacement contract available?
What happened was this one was rebid. There was no bidders,
Yeah.
so it was re-advertised. So there will be a contract in place soon to replace this one. So this is just basically to continue.
Yeah, we now
continue
have a
service.
responsive bid, but, right,
Right.
initially, we didn't have any
Right,
responsive bids.
right.
We
Initially,
now-
there was no bidders, and so it was re-advertised.
And do we have any idea why there were no bidders? That's what I wanted to get at.
Well, initially, why there were no bidders. There's
Yeah,
one bidder now.
initially, right.
Yeah.
So where are your contracts?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Selma Collins, Acting Director of Supply Chain Services. Yes, we did have a bid opportunity that was put out, and we got no bidders. We had one company that bid it. Their bid came in too late. There's a deadline that's given and a date, and the bid was out for, I think it's 45 days, and their bid actually came in late. In consultation with the City Attorney's Office, it was deemed that we could not accept that bid. So we quickly put it out to bid again, and in the meantime, we're requesting a 90-day extension to be able to get the new bid that was put out awarded. That new opportunity was put out to bid already. It was advertised on May 25th. Bids open on June 9th. We've actually transmitted the information to the system, and we're expecting to have an award within the next couple of months.
I think the commissioner's asking a different question, though. Is initially,
Yeah.
are there limited suppliers of liquid
When it comes to
chlorine?
this,
or
yes,
is it-
sir. Yes, because we're talking about the transportation and delivery of bulk chlorine, which is a hazardous chemical. And when it comes to the transportation of it, it's very difficult to find companies that are able to have the insurance that is needed, because you're making deliveries to the filter plant, which is a very, very important asset to the department. Consequently, insurance requirements are very high, and very few companies are capable of providing this because it's a hazardous chemical.
So it's not like in some situations where they have problems meeting the spec. In this case, it's just the cost of delivering this particular product limits the field of potential suppliers.
That is correct.
And this is not a new situation to DWP. You've known about this
we've
problem?
been using chlorine for ages at the filter plant. We
So-
normally don't have that many vendors bid on this. The last spec that we just put out, and we are reviewing the bids right now, we did get two bidders in that particular opportunity.
I guess why this concerns me is, if I'm understanding correctly, liquid chlorine is a fairly essential ingredient in our operations, and it seems to me that we're running a huge risk if we don't have adequate sources identified to know who our bidders are going to be, so that when we send out the bids, we get responsive bids. I mean, I'm finding this kind of a little hard to believe, actually.
I'm not, given the fact how hazardous it is, the cost of doing this kind of business, the kinds of requirements that the transportation authorities, I think this is more a structural problem, quite frankly, than an industry problem. But
Yeah, if I can add, it is a problem that we're aware of, and although we've been using chlorine for a long time, the regulations surrounding the transport and use of chlorine have gotten more stringent.
Yeah.
Several vendors have dropped this liquid chlorine line out of the building. We do have options for getting chlorine. We can get it in what they call 1-ton cylinders, which is a different form. It's a little less cost efficient than this liquid form that we have. But if we had a problem getting liquid chlorine at all, we could go with this more expensive option of the 1-ton cylinders, so that we would not endanger the water treatment capabilities that we have.
I mean, quite frankly, we have the same situation with some of our insurance contracts. There's just a limited number of providers out that provide the unique services that we need.
Also, Commissioner Moss, we're in the process of making the infrastructure changes to eliminate this liquid type of chlorine. Although it's a more cost-effective way, we can see that going forward it may be not very viable. So we are making the necessary changes, but it's going to take a few years to get
Okay,
this in
well,
place.
thank you for the input.
Is there a motion to approve item 9?
So moved.
Second?
Hearing no objection, item 9 passes. That takes us through the
Number
consent.
12, I think?
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner, yes. Commissioner 12, you had questions on the water schedule charges? Yeah.
Yes, is there someone who's presenting on this?
I can
okay.
start out with it.
So, very, very simple question. In the board letter is a reference that we collected last year, total $14.3 million in charges.
Yes.
And I'd like to know what the cost was to us. I mean, in other words, are we revenue neutral on this? And how did the numbers come down in terms of the cost to DWP?
The goal is to be revenue neutral on this. The charges that we are proposing this year are based on what our costs were last year.
So it's a true-up.
But Mr. Torres might be able to tell you exactly.
Correct. We based our charges on the first 3 quarters of 2010 to 2011. And the costs that are reflected in the proposed schedule are basically, they directly reflect the cost that we incurred during those 3 quarters.
So we ran at a deficit last year then, right? Or is that what you're saying in the last?
No,
three?
these escalation factors are also added to these charges, anticipating future labor and inflation costs.
I think what he's asking, Hugo, is then, so last year we collected $14.3 million, where our costs probably were either slightly above or slightly below $14.3 million, and he's wondering what were our actual costs last year?
That's hard to gauge because in those, some of those projects, there are also infrastructure betterments, so it's hard to separate them out.
but
Well, I think we have a responsibility to the, especially the construction community out there. If we're going to start raising their fees, we have to make the case for it.
Well, we do make the case for it. I mean, the best that we can do is find some rational basis for setting the fees. And what we do is we say, for each different kind of facility or each different kind of thing that we're setting a rate for, we look and see exactly how much did we spend on these. Like if we did 8 of these kind of services, we find out how much we spent on those 8, divided by 8. That's our new unit cost for that service for the following year. So that's how we say that. So it's designed to be as reflective as possible of our actual costs, but things may have been a little bit higher, a little bit lower from the previous year. But we have to have some basis for doing it. So this is what we've been doing for a number of years.
So we base the charges on, or the rates on the costs we incurred in the preceding year.
Yes.
And we true it up every year as we roll forward. Is that
Correct.
And also, if you look at the comparison sheets, you'll see that we also reflect savings, and we have increases and decreases. So we always, our costs are improved in certain activities, then we do reflect those in the schedule as well.
Yeah, but Commissioner Moss makes a very good point. We want to make sure we only charge the costs we actually incur.
And that is what we do. And like Jim said, the best way we have to do that is by historical actual numbers.
Commissioner Moss?
Okay, no, I'm fine.
I would like to ask Mr. Brejevich, is the fees increased reflected here? Are they subject to Prop 26?
The fees here would be exempt from Prop 26.
Right.
And why is that, just so for our edification?
One, because it's a property-related service, so you're 218. Secondly, even if you were subject to it, you have the issue where you're actually paying for a service at the reasonable cost of that service.
Mr. Brejevich, do you feel that it would be appropriate for us, for each change, to nonetheless provide a rationale based on the cost increase that we are charging? Just so it's very clear to the construction community and to others that there's a rationale for that increase rather than simply stating it.
Well, to adopt it, you don't have to provide a rationale for it. Whether you want to provide a rationale for it or not is a business decision or management decision, but you don't have to do that for legal compliance.
Well, building on what Commissioner Parfrey is saying is that, we are interested here, and I think part of our portfolio as commissioners is the overall public appreciation and respect for the DWP. And I think that if we just announce new fees without any explanation, that's not going to go over too well.
This is an annual process. We do this every year at the beginning of the fiscal year, so the development community is aware of the process. I mean, it's not something that's being sprung upon them. They do some, like Hugo said, some go up, some go down based on previous years.
Yeah, and I can tell you as a member of the development community that we accept it happens every year, and we don't like it. And we don't like it in part because it's not explained to us exactly how it's gotten there.
Yeah, I think it's probably not a bad idea periodically, right, to explain the process.
We have detailed information down to whether labor costs went up, material costs went up. Sometimes it's you've got a series of jobs that were in much more difficult streets than the previous year. I mean, there's a number of factors, but these guys have this all broken down into minute detail, and we can provide as much or as little as the board would like.
Yeah, the way I'm envisioning it is simply, in the board letter and the background material that you've developed, it talks about the charge in 2011, the proposed charge in 2012, and the change. And with that, it's almost like an additional column on a spreadsheet would just be to provide a rationale as to why there are increases in these fees associated with each item. I think even if it's redundant, it would be appreciated.
We would be happy to incorporate that.
Why don't we do that?
If you can incorporate in the future, I'm inclined to support this motion.
Okay. Is there a motion?
There is a motion.
And a second?
Second.
Hearing no objections, item 12 passes. Item 13.
Thank you.
Who's going to, on item 13, who will present that matter?
we have somebody from real estate who will explain the lease
There we
form.
go. There's a familiar face.
Good afternoon. Reynald Ledesma from Real Estate. This is for a 4-year agreement for our customer service office. And this was as a result of our being at that location since 2002. And we've been in laborious negotiations with the owner. They've been quite difficult to deal with. But in the final analysis, based on what it would cost for us to move to another location, it was determined that it would be in the department's best interest to remain at the site.
Okay. The reason why I pulled this is I just had a few specific questions. I see that there is no, are there any tenant improvements associated with this renewal?
No, there are. We've been there, like I said, since 2002. So the initial improvements were made at that time. We are responsible for some common area charges and our share of different things, but there are no improvements contemplated with this agreement.
So there was no need after 9 years to maybe put some paint on the walls or fix some of the floor?
None that were identified.
Well, you tread lightly on your spaces. Also, was there any free rent discussed in this transaction?
I actually wasn't involved in the actual negotiations for this particular item. One of my subordinates were. But in the initial item, what had happened was that we were in a situation where we were on a month-to-month agreement with the owner, and we had been looking for other places that we may end up wanting to go to as well, but we didn't find one that was suitable, and the expense it would take to relocate to another place was determined not to be feasible, and so that's why we worked more diligently to try to resolve with this particular owner. But free rent was not one of the items we negotiated for.
I'm not being critical of the deal because parts of it look like it's a fairly market deal as far as I understand it, but I also have to point out that there's not too many landlords that get the opportunity to deal with a triple or double A rated tenant in their premises, and that gives you a lot of leverage to essentially call the shots. And I don't think it's so uncommon these days, especially in the West Valley, to have either tenant improvements or free rent built into the deal. I recognize that the rent has remained the same for quite some time, but still rents have fallen about 20% to 30% in the West Valley in the last couple of years. You know, I'm a little concerned that we may not be exercising from a negotiation standpoint. And I don't know all the particulars of this deal, but we may not be really playing our cards to maximize the benefit to the DWP.
Well, we did try initially when we went to negotiate with the owner. One of our first ploys is to review the rents, and like you said, we've been on holdover for about 5 years on this particular agreement. And also, when we initially look at it, we say, well, where can we possibly move to? But I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think, but in this particular case, we were already.
You should disagree with you, because he's saying we're not negotiating. We're not as tough negotiators as we should be. And you agree with that, or you disagree?
No, I disagree with you in that we're not tough in negotiating. I'm just saying that
that's the point he was making.
Oh, okay. I apologize. The circumstances were such that there was not a better alternative in which to go to if we were not going to stay with this particular one.
Well, and I'm sorry, how long have you been on holdover with this landlord?
Since 2005, I believe.
You've been on holdover for multiple years on this location? You're telling me you couldn't find a suitable location in the midst of one of the worst recessions and that's plagued the real estate industry in 20 years?
Touchdown.
I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Let's do this. I think privately, I think it would make this would be a good opportunity for you to have a conversation with Commissioner Moss and walk him through the process. Because what I hear you saying is there was not a better alternative. You look at the aggregate cost, right? This was the best alternative, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think you should have a conversation
I'd
with
be
him offline.
more than happy to do it.
And it'd be
Right.
good. Okay, so why don't we handle it that way? But I think the point that Commissioner Moss is making is a good one. In this environment, we should be tough when we negotiate lease arrangements and other contracts, because it is a tough market.
Anything else on item 13?
there a motion?
I vote to defer.
I would second that.
Let me ask a question. We've been holding over for 5 years, so I assume there's no real problem if we defer this to the next meeting until Commissioner Moss can have his meeting with you?
No.
Okay, let's move to defer. You want to move?
Second, yes.
Okay. Hearing no objection, the item's deferred. Okay. That completes the consent agenda, I believe?
Yes.
Did we approve the minutes, item 5?
Yes, you did.
Okay, great. All right, we're up to item 16.
Item 16 is request to pay the directors and officers liability insurance for the department, SCAPA and IPA. This item was discussed last meeting, and you were asked us to go back and look at other markets. We went back, we contacted 13 carriers, 8 responded they could not provide a better offer than what Aegis provided us, and we would request that this item be approved.
And I assume the commissioner saw the memo dated July 15th, the supplemental memo? She did?
Yes.
Okay. Questions or comments? So bottom line, this is the only game in town. It's not just for munis, but
Unless we bundle it with other insurance, but actually our goal is to try to separate out so we have multiple bidders, but we'll take a look at this again when we renegotiate next year.
I think, if I might say, because I don't believe you were at the meeting, but I think part of the concern that some of the commissioners had was that with the transition to the new broker, this may not have been handled with enough foresight and enough time to really ferret out what's going on in the marketplace. And I think that was, Commissioner Parfrey, if you recall, I think that was part of our concern. I appreciate the efforts to go back and take another look-see. I think also because we identified some potential liability issues associated with the nature of the coverage and the fact that we're covering other agencies as part of it, we really feel like we have no choice here. But I'm not real comfortable with how the process worked out, and even allowing for the change in brokers.
We did get one vendor that said they needed more time, and we will start that process earlier next year so that we have at least a few bids to go through that. But on this one vendor, we do have a continuing credit coverage that's helping reduce the premiums.
Right.
Other questions or comments on item 16? Motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Hearing no objection, item 16 passes. Who's going to item 17?
Items 17 and 18 are actually related. A couple of board meetings ago, we asked you to approve regulatory assets for the Solar Incentive Program, Energy Efficiency Program, and Water Conservation Program. What 17 and 18 do is we are asking to include the cost of administration and inspections for the Solar Incentive Program. It's an amount not to exceed of $23 million, but the department will capitalize these costs and amortize it over the 20 years along with the rebates. And we think this is a better way to recognize these costs.
Questions?
Yeah, are there any downsides to capitalizing these kinds of costs?
You're spreading that expense over a longer period, so you have to take that into consideration when you're planning. So we do have a capitalization ratio that we target about 60%. So the more that we capitalize, then we eat away at future capitalization.
So in other words, if we did this with many, many, many more type contracts, it would lessen our ability to go out into the market and perhaps take on debt.
Correct.
So we have to do it judiciously then.
We do it judiciously and where it makes sense, and in this one we think it makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
I move to approve items 17 and 18.
Second.
Any objections? Hearing none, items 17 and 18 pass. Presentation item 19.
Matt Lamp will be presenting.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Matt Lamp, Chief Information Officer. What you have before you is a contract amendment with Oracle Corporation. It is a little bit unusual in that it is an amendment for an additional 5 years, and it has a significant price increase. So I want to take a few minutes and explain, sort of put that in context.
Matt, is there a presentation that goes along with this?
Did the presentation not get distributed to the board?
Yes.
Is this the presentation?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All right, I thought there would be something up on the screen for the public to see as well.
I thought there would be also. We'll have to do it if we can do it without. Usually that's set up well in advance for us. So if we can do it off these slides, I hope that's okay.
I think that doesn't address Commissioner Parker's concern. He wanted the public to be able to.
Yeah.
Is that your concern?
That is precisely my concern. I
especially-
think this is a sizable contract, and I feel that it's important that the public receive, again, a rationale as to why we're expending their dollars for a CIS system. And I think there's a strong rationale there, but I think it's important that we are able to tell the public why we're spending it.
Is there harm in deferring this so we can get the PowerPoint up? for the next meeting?
Timing-wise, since this has to go back through council, it could make it fairly tight to when our contract ends and our invoices due. I mean, it really ends up on the council schedule. I wonder if we can get the presentation is here. I wonder if I can get a projector up here very quickly.
Yes. How long will it take to get this set up for a presentation?
Reggie?
Reggie, you think you can do it fairly soon? We can recess for 10 minutes or so.
Or if you want to move it back in the agenda.
Less than 10 minutes? Yeah, why don't we just recess for 10 minutes and we'll get set up and we'll come back.
Okay, very good.
Stay tuned, folks.
Thank you.
Good idea. Thank you.
Reg, I have the presentation with me if you have the laptop. Do you have the laptop? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I did it with 21 and 24.
That's good. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I will. I'll send it over. FYI, just for these will probably it's on this board meeting. Yeah, and in theory, we won't have a
No, it's
We're
not.
recording? Oh, now we're
All right, we're back on the record, item 19.
Okay, thank you very much. Matt Lamp, CIO. So to put the Oracle contract amendment in context, I want to review a little bit of what's been going on with IT in the department for the last couple of years, because it's an important part of the context that we're going to be doing here. I'll do this very quickly. We've been operating under a strategic agenda that was reviewed by the board in 2008 and was reviewed by the Ernst & Young IT assessment in 2010. And increasing standardization and reducing the diversity of our application portfolio, there's more standardization across the department, was a key element of that agenda. Since 2008, we've made a number of key standardization decisions, how we do interfaces, core reporting environment, business intelligence environment, a document and records management platform, revised web platform for web publishing, identity management for security, which was one of the security assessment recommendations from 2008. Asset management, which was reflected in the recent board action on a Maximo upgrade contract. The CIS platform selection, some standardization in project management software for large-scale projects, and then database for enterprise projects. And you'll see a number of those items, the software, either some portion of the software or all of it is now software that's dependent on in the Oracle contract. As you look at what that's translated to in terms of application efforts, we did the call center upgrade with CSD. The Oracle software dependency was really on our first use of a much more standardized approach to interface development, which we've continued. The bill redesign project, ERSP with supply chain, the web redesign project, which is nearing completion, some business intelligence work, which is still in early phase development, but we've brought online an extensive dashboard for power. We've developed some dashboards for tracking some of the issues we're having with meters not getting installed but not getting billed properly quickly, and then a couple additional places. Electronic bill payment, again with customer service division, where we moved all our IVR web and ACH payments more in-house and eliminated the customer fee that we had previously had through our outside vendor. And then finally, the CIS replacement project, which is currently in the detailed design phase. And again, a number of these projects in some ways depend on Oracle software. So why the contract as an amendment? Basically, this is an enabling agreement that allows us to purchase maintenance and support for Oracle software. The primary purpose is maintenance. There are some dollars associated with it for potential purchases of software itself, but the bulk of this is maintenance. Maintenance gives you access to newer versions of software without having to repurchase licenses. It assures that we get bug fixes and security patches on a regular basis, and it provides support when there's a problem in one of the systems or in the software, so we can open tickets, escalate them through Oracle support processes to resolve problems. And finally, there's a basic level of discount inherent in the contract based on purchase quantity. That discount scheme is essentially parallel to the federal contract, GSA contract, and they have essentially a most favored nations clause with the Fed. So for that level of discount up to that dollar amount, basically they can't offer anything higher than that. When you get to a higher dollar amount, we basically do individual negotiations with them and generally see considerably higher discounts. We tend to we negotiate those deals. We try to bundle those as much as possible because dollar amounts make a difference, even if it's different products in the Oracle catalog. Their year-end and mid-year 6-month reporting periods are places where you generally will see a few additional discount points added to a deal if you can bring things in at those kinds of time frames. And we do generally review any of the negotiations we do with some independent experts to see if in one way or another we're getting a reasonable deal on software we're buying, given the quantities we're purchasing, et cetera. So the next question probably is why amend and not replace the contract? And basically we have some provisions in there that are essentially Oracle said, we're not going to give again, but we will grandfather you. So both for speed and some convenience, it's essentially easier to amend the contract and add 5 years to it than it is to do a whole new contract. But some of that is because of terms, and there is no other vendor who's going to provide us this Oracle support. And then I guess the last question is why it comes really to what drives the increases in the contract. And there are three sources of the increase. One is that Oracle over the years, as a lot of the software big companies have done, has purchased numerous other companies. And if they purchased companies where we owned products under maintenance, that maintenance has now been rolled into this contract. And the next slide will show in more detail what some of those are. The second is where we've selected some Oracle products through real competitive comparisons. And CIS is probably the best example of that, where, as you recall, we hired a quality assurance consultant to help us hire a system integrator to run a process to essentially compare for our needs Oracle and SAP. A second example was the identity management software, where there were 3 leading vendors in the marketplace, and we did some extensive comparisons among the 3, did reference checks, talked to some of the experts in the field, and selected the Oracle Identity Management software. And then finally, there are some examples where we've had existing products where we've expanded the use of those products over time. Clearly, the database is the biggest example of that. So to talk a little bit about industry consolidation, and I just put up 3 sort of to make this a simplified sampling. So in fact, we're seeing that even with a company like SAP, who is renowned for being somebody who develops all their own stuff. When they went to do something with business intelligence, they bought Business Objects, who had bought Crystal Reports, who we had used some of before. IBM bought MRO, who is the developer of Maximo. They bought FileNet, which was a very large independent document management company. They bought Rational, which was essentially a development and testing tools company. And those are all products we use. For Oracle, there are a number of procurements that they bought, large ones where we use those products. Siebel is definitely one. But we use some of the Hyperion products. We use Stellent as a web publishing platform. We use WebLogic. And then there were some products like the Cbeyond product, which we had bought independently back when we were started the Siebel work for integration. Cbeyond got purchased by Sun got purchased by Oracle, and that brought that application integration suite into the mix. But you can see there are significant numbers of products that we previously maintained through separate contracts that have all been rolled up into here. This probably gives you the best view of how that works. So the original Oracle products, and some of those, the use has grown, represents only about 13% of what's in this contract. About 25% is reflective of products that we were using that Oracle bought those companies, and we've rolled those in. About 40% is related to the new CIS. And then we have some capacity in there for purchase of essentially a new financial system out a couple years for implementation, which is on our strategic roadmap. That's clearly dependent on budget, et cetera, being able to support moving forward with that project. But since it's on the timeline, we wanted to at least include the capacity to purchase that software inside this contract. Why now? Basically because we've been covering other software, some of these additions, acquisitions, maintenance in the contract. We've basically exhausted it now. The contract is near its expiration date. We're going to need to pay maintenance invoices in September. And there are, frankly, very significant risks to us if we can't continue maintenance on the software. So we'd recommend that.
Questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Parker?
Matt, you've known that I'm very much in support of the CIS upgrade and tried to help as much as I can from this position. It's so important, and I very much want to support this proposal, but I do have some questions first. Can you tell me what your office is budgeted for this year for software maintenance and procurement?
What's your overall budget?
Come forward. Come forward. You know the answer.
$4 million for this year?
Yeah, I mean, are you speaking specifically for overall for software maintenance?
For software maintenance for your office related to the products that you're currently contemplating purchasing. When we started last year, when we approved a budget, what were you budgeted at?
We were budgeted roughly around $4.5 million.
$4.5 million.
And this for general software, and then the trouble is it's not in any one bucket, so there's just spread out.
And then for this coming year, that was recently approved, the budget that this board approved. Could you tell me how much we've set aside for software maintenance and procurement for this coming year?
Roughly around, it's a little bit less. It's around $4 million.
$4 million.
Does that include the CIS maintenance?
The CIS maintenance, some of it's being capitalized right now. I'm making a distinction between O&M and capital, I guess. Sorry.
No, go ahead. You can even conflate the two if you wish.
O&M and capital. So because the project hasn't been fully implemented yet, some of it's being capitalized still.
So, yeah, so those dollars sit in the capital project, not in the O&M software budget.
I understand.
The other piece that's important about
But can you add the two budgets together and tell me what the totals would be for?
I have to go back and look because I don't know that off the top of my
I
head.
think he's just trying to get a sense of the numbers, not with any real precision. Is that fair?
That would be accurate. I guess the argument that I want to make clear to the public is that this is a good investment, and without there being a sense of what we've been budgeted at in previous years, what we're budgeted at for this year, and what the capital costs are in terms of the CIS upgrade, which is crucial, absolutely crucial and this board has supported it all the way along, you know, I'd like to get a sense of, you know, this deal that we're getting now is truly a deal. And we need to have some figures in front of us to be able to understand that better.
Let me back up and talk a little bit about the CIS purchase then, because I think that's an important one. The CIS software purchase was approximately $11 million.
And this board approved that?
That was not directly.
We approved
You approved a budget for that project that had all those acquisition costs in it. The contract vehicle that was used was the software commodities contract. When we brought the software commodities contract back up here, we had a fairly lengthy explanation in that board letter about the CIS software purchase. Okay. That software purchase was negotiated with Oracle. We had our quality assurance consultant, 5 Point Partners, who's probably looked at more CIS, large-scale CIS purchases in this country than anybody, because that is their main job. Take an extensive look at it and basically help us negotiate a very strong procurement purchase with Oracle. And essentially before we completed that purchase, they gave us the equivalent of an opinion letter, which I think we referenced and quoted in that board letter on the commodities contract renewal, that said in their view, this was as strong as positive a deal for the utility as any they have seen in the country in the last few years.
That's right, and this board approved that.
Right. And one of the key features of that agreement, which is carried forward in this contract, is that all that software that was associated with that would be maintained. There were two key provisions for it. One was that for a number of years we stayed at a zero increase. That is, they could not apply their normal maintenance increases to that amount. And then there was a ramp up to their normal increases over the next 5 years. So I think it was a total of 5 years of renewals that were at zero, and then it ramped up over another 5 years. In addition, we negotiated, which is extremely unusual with Oracle, provision that all the software in that contract, the maintenance would be based at 18% of the software cost instead of 22. 22 is Oracle standard. It applies across the board. They're an unusual company in that they apply it to the price you paid for the software, not against list price. So if you negotiate a strong deal, you also get essentially whatever that discount you achieved every year heading out forward. When we analyzed that compared to 22% maintenance and the normal increase amounts that Oracle can take on its annual maintenance, the net over a 10-year period, I believe, was about $25 million. That may have been over a 20-year. That was, again, detailed in the board letter when we brought the commodities contract back to you. But it is about $1.8 million or somewhere in that range annually to maintain that software. And where the risks are of not maintaining that software is essentially you get stuck with essentially the version that it is. And what we have seen is, and we see it a lot in the software environment, is that as people do new versions, they improve functionality, they make it easier to do integration, they address problems that are not problems today but will be in the future. And let me just give you one example of that we've had discussions with Oracle about where this is going forward. As you deploy smart meters, one of the issues about smart meters is they are like, in some ways, just like any other computing device. They need firmware upgrades, they need software upgrades, they may need some adjustments to their programming if you, for example, change your time of use periods. You don't want to have to go pull a meter to change that. You want to be able to deploy that over the wire. You need a system that is capable of doing that. Today, none of the meter data management systems do that, but they're building those capacities in. We do not want to have to rebuy all the licenses for meter data management to make sure we have those capabilities in the future. You want to maintain that software. Bug fixes are critical. This software is extremely complicated, and it is inevitable that you find some bugs in it. And you can work around some of them, but a lot of them you go back to the company and say, this is what we're seeing, and you sit down with the development teams and they resolve those issues and issue a patch that resolves that problem. And that's not something we can do because we're not going to go into that source code. So maintenance is critical when you have this kind of investment going forward.
No argument on the maintenance. That was part of the previous agreement, however. The upgrades and the bug fixes.
Yes, but you have to pay for the maintenance under some contract. So we purchased it, we purchased the first year's maintenance, and we roll all the maintenance into this contract, which is our ongoing maintenance contract. So every time when we purchase software, we purchase the first year's maintenance, and then as part with the purchase, and we roll the ongoing maintenance into this contract. This contract then ends up in our budget really in a split, because accounting has told us that where you're buying maintenance that gives you the rights to upgrade, there are some accounting rules that some portion of that should be capitalized, because you're essentially pre-buying future additions. And we've been working with them. They've adjusted how they want us to do that a little bit. But a portion of it actually of software maintenance actually sits in our capital budget, so which is partially why it's a little harder to easily answer that question, because some software sits in project budgets, some software sits in the other parts of the capital budget, some software sits in the O&M budget.
Commissioner Murphy? Commissioner Moss?
I want to make sure that I'm following this correctly, so let me try and dumb it down for myself. Siebel, we purchased some software or licensed some software from Siebel, correct?
Yes, about 6 years ago,
okay.
I think.
And we've been on a maintenance contract with Siebel. At some point, Oracle has purchased Siebel.
Right.
Okay. Do we have the ability to continue dealing directly with the Siebel subsidiary of Oracle outside of this grand contract to continue buying maintenance from Siebel, or is Siebel
doesn't really exist anymore?
Doesn't exist anymore. So we're faced, if I'm understanding correctly, we're faced with the opportunity to either go individually back to Oracle serially when all these maintenance contracts come up and each time start from scratch, or wrap it all up into one big package.
Right.
And you're recommending to us that the big package is the most efficient way to do it because we grandfather in all of our favorable clauses, and it's more efficient and it's less time consuming for your department.
Yes, that's correct. And one of the features of this is that we've worked with Oracle to realign because a lot of those different things had different payment schedules, so we've also worked to realign the payments so that it's one payment now and not sort of a different little payment every other month.
So separate and apart from the DWP's desire, whether we want to be more of an Oracle-favored customer, we have no choice because of the industry consolidations. It's now, all these things are now Oracle.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Parfrey?
And this, for the 6-year term, it means that we're going to be seeing very few additional software maintenance contracts for the next 6 years.
You're going to see a fairly significant one come back shortly for IBM, because we have FileNet Maximo and all the mainframe operating software, which we are still going to have for at least another 5 or so years, depending how quickly we can actually move to replace the financial system, which is, once you get CIS off, that's the next big hurdle to essentially retire the mainframe environment here. But other than that, for the most part, we handle things through the commodities contract. Occasionally, we'll run into a vendor who, there are two cases where you'll see something come here. One is if there's new software that we have to purchase from a company that does not want to deal with the reseller. There are some companies that say some products we won't resell. You have to buy it from us. And if we have a product where we're purchasing a product and a significant amount of services to help us implement it, that would probably be a separate RFP or separate contract, and we bring that forward. So you see the software and the services together under some of those circumstances. But for the most part, between commodities contract, the Oracle contract, and the IBM contract, we've hit, I would say, at least 95% of what we're doing.
And I also note that this contract goes beyond just a couple of years, so we have to put it in front of City Council.
Yes. Well, we have to anyway because it's an amendment to an existing contract.
And so has your office been working with Ms. Yancey and others to be able to apprise members of council on the need for this significant new investment?
Yes.
Other questions? Is there a motion?
I have two speaker cards for this item.
Okay, please.
The first speaker is Candido Morez.
Commissioners, I don't know where the camera is, but I'm going to speak to that camera. To the ratepayers of this great city, you just heard an example of why your rates are being increased. I can go back to 2004 when they had a software purchase, and it was called BiddingNet for the procurement, and they spent over $10 million. They never owned the whole process, and the company that owned it walked away, and then the Department of Water ended up with nothing, and you, the ratepayer, ended up paying the bill. So, like the example before it in item 13, where we talked about the real estate, here we are, the great DWP, who has all the power in the world, the golden goose, and we have some independent little owner in Winnetka who's saying to us, I'm going to hold you hostage. I'm going to have you pay the same rates or possibly an increase. When we all know, as Mr. Moss has pointed out, this is a buyer's market. This is a renter's market. I had a piece of property that I just had. They moved out. I offered them to reduce the rate by almost 25%. They said, no, I know somebody else that's got a place in Chatsworth that has a little better deal for me. So now I sit with a vacant piece of property. And to sit here and to hear this over and over again. I've been here so long that it makes me puke, honestly. And you know what's going to happen, folks? For me, it's going to be you, the DWP worker, the hardworking DWP worker, because sooner or later this is going to come back to your benefits, to your retirements. We just saw that the LAPD was willing to renegotiate their contract and give in. You guys negotiated a great contract. It belongs to you. You shouldn't give up anything because you were smart enough to go to work for the Department of Water and Power when the rest of us wouldn't. We were all going to be entrepreneurs. But what's going to happen? It's all going to come back and fall on you. Because sooner or later, the people of this great city are going to say, enough is enough. And so, Mr. President, Commissioners, I stand before you again. And if I was bold, I would pull my pants down, drop them, and say, here goes again.
Thank you.
Because I have dignity and integrity, I'd rather walk over, sit down, and say, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Linda Romney.
Ms. Romney.
The fact is that it's an additional $28,700,000 in addition to what you've already approved. You've already stated that the DWP has an double A plus rating. Now, why can you not negotiate something better than over $28 million in addition to what you've already authorized? And the two gentlemen here can't even answer your question as to exactly how much you have authorized. What kind of accounting is that? Obviously, they need to change the accounting system and go to some other than Oracle, because they're not even using their own accounting system. Now, the amendment is needed as the original contract could not anticipate the impacts of industrial consolidation, nor predict that Oracle would be the CIS software. Do you reward incompetence? How come they couldn't anticipate it? Everyone else in the industry could anticipate it. What you're doing is you have now increased as of July 1st for the indigent senior citizens and your indigent disabled, you put through a $50 rate increase. A $50 rate increase on every single bill, which means that those people are going to have their water and their electric turned off because there's no way that they can possibly exclude themselves from the system. But we can come over here and give these gentlemen, and I'm using the term very loosely, an additional $28 million, over $28 million. There isn't any transparency here because they haven't presented any to the ratepayers. Now, when do they become accountable when we've got a major depression going on? And yes, it is not a recession, it is a depression. Please reconsider this, have these gentlemen come back with the exact figures. You can chop this, you can get better money for the DWP for this software. Don't constantly go back to Oracle. They're an undeserving company. Undeserving. Do what they did with this bridge that they knocked down. Give them a $300,000 automatic bonus when your people come around, not your people, but open it up when they come around and show you what the software really could be and how much money we as ratepayers could really serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was the last card for 19.
Is there a motion on item 19?
Matt, I have one more question.
Okay.
By affecting this particular contract, can you give me a ballpark estimate of cost savings to this department?
You know, we need to be respectful of people. Yes. People are respectful of you when you speak, so I appreciate you doing the same thing to others.
I apologize.
Thank you.
So there are two places where the contract per se saves us money. One is relating to purchases that we make going forward, because it does give us the 5-year piece on additional purchases, 5 years without an increase. The estimate on that, I think, is about $500,000 over the life of this. The second place it gives us something that's different is training credits, and those are handled through a minority business firm, and I think it's 3.4% of purchases. Yeah, of purchases. So, you know, at this point, you know, we're estimating, I think, about $3 to $4 million of purchases over the 5-year period, and so again, that's 3 to 4% of that. Other than that, we're dealing with basically maintaining our existing contract on the CIS piece, which is a savings that if we leave maintenance, disappears. So it's critical we keep that under maintenance. But there aren't a whole lot of savings. There isn't a whole lot of ability to buy this software, this maintenance someplace else.
And
Just doesn't exist.
And what I've heard, but we're voting on a package right now, so we're looking at cost savings for this package. And what I heard from Commissioner Moss in his line of questioning is that there could be savings in staff time in the preparation of future purchases by this consolidation. And do you have a ballpark estimate at generally what some of those savings may look like? How much staff time is dedicated to this kind of preparation of these board letters and for the contracts?
Well, actually, the biggest savings is really sort of consolidating the invoice and payment processing, which clearly, it takes a number of hours every time you have an invoice. This brings the invoices down to 4 a year from, I think, right now it's running about 30, 35. It's not a huge number, 10 hours, I'd guess sort of 10 hours a piece on covering those. On the invoice side, if it's not having to do separate renewals on the 6 or 7 contracts that consolidate here, that's probably more significant. I would bet you have 40 to 60 staff hours apiece in bringing those to the board. If we have to send them to council, because this is a contract that would have to go to council, any further amendments go to council, each of those goes through that cycle, and that's easily 120 hours apiece when you have to send something down the hill. So it's probably a half-time, you end up with about a half-time person.
And beyond that, it's not just your office once it needs council approval. You have to engage the legislative side of the department as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just have one last question, if I may. Going to the slide that you had that kind of broke down to a slide called contract distribution. And what I wanted to know, because I wanted to correct the record from what the public speaker was saying, that I think the assertion I heard was that we're increasing the contract by $28 million, thereby increasing or approving $28 million additional and new expenditure by the department. I did not believe that that was the case, and I wanted, if we take out that 40% of new CIS related, aren't we pretty much, we're not spending any more here, we're just consolidating things. Is that correct?
Yeah,
just yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Other questions from commissioners?
No, there's not. I would like to approve the motion.
Second.
Hearing no objection, item 19 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're on to filed items?
On to item 20.
Item 20, yes.
Mr. President, I would like to ask Ms. Santilli a couple questions based on the monthly financial reports.
We're at item 20. I skipped one.
Oh, I'm
Excuse
sorry.
me. It's my fault. Item 20, who's going to present that matter?
Hello, Commissioners.
Please wait
yes,
a minute, please, until Commissioner Moss returns. But you can stay at the podium.
Okay. Why don't you just go ahead? We won't act until.
Okay. All right. So basically, this resolution in front of you, basically it sets up the structure for future hiring of our electrical tester trainees. Currently, the structure that we have, for example, assistant testers are only hired into one specialty. We have about 8 specialties within our organization. By the way, I'm Dan Scores. I'm the manager of ISS Test Lab. And within my organization, our testers, which are basically our utility technicians, that go out 24/7, 365 days a week to keep the system running. They troubleshoot the complex systems such as our SCADA, RTU systems, our protections. They do the commissioning of our facilities with our capital projects. Currently, the structure that we have, we would hire assistant testers, but they would go into only one of the 8 disciplines. Therefore, what was happening, they would specialize, and they would be stuck in that area. So we wanted to open it up, have a cross-training structure for training our technicians, and this would help us in the recruitment, retention, and being competitive with other 530 trainee positions. What was happening is that as they were hired as assistant testers, they would see that the other training programs were paying more. They had an opportunity to go and get another job, become either a lineman, an operations person. So to be in line with the other 530 classes, we've put this document in front of you that sets up the structure for this. You know, as I said, there's 8 different disciplines. What this gives us is gives us cross-training. It gives us the ability, the opportunity for these trainees, once they graduate, to work in the different sections in the test lab. We also would have a 3-year time to evaluate them versus 6 months, where if you were hired as an assistant tester, you would go into one of these 8 disciplines, but you would only have a 6 months probation. With this structure, you would have a 3-year program that you have to go through all the different 8 disciplines. We would get to see the employee working in all the different areas. We would have more time to evaluate the employee and also give them the cross-training. And what's happening with this classification, we're going into new technologies. We're going to solar, wind, smart grid. This program provides that training. And as I said, now we will, with this structure, we will be similar to the other training programs that we have, such as the line mechanics, distribution mechanics, operation guys. So that's what you have in front of you.
Questions from the commissioners?
I do have a speaker card for this one.
Okay, we'll get questions from the commissioners before we hear from the speaker.
Yeah, one quick question. How many actual positions or people are we talking about in terms of?
Okay, my organization has about 264 APR. We're about 210, so we have about 50 vacancies. There's 160 technicians. There's electrical testers and senior electrical testers. Right now, I'm down 20 positions. So if we were to start a class, it would be for 20 technicians.
You know, in the write-up, I'm sorry, Commissioner Parker, did you have something? In the write-up, we said the fiscal impact over the course of 2 years for 10 employees is one. Could you explain that?
Yeah, it was an example saying that if we were to hire 10 trainees, one in the the old system, one in the new system, the cost would be $179,000 more in that 2-year period. But the benefit that we would get is that you would have an employee in the 3-year program, even though it costs more, I could use him in different areas. He wouldn't be specialized in one. Okay. One of the things that happens...
It costs more, but it gives us more flexibility.
It gives us a lot more flexibility. That's right.
Does that ultimately mean we'll have to hire less employees?
Well, yeah, you know what happens is exactly that. That's a good point. Right now, when I have somebody working in meters in one of the disciplines, I can't put them in RTUs or relays because he doesn't know that he doesn't have that training. With this cross-training, if I have a need to put more people into meters, such as if we're implementing smart grid, I could do that. Now they have the basic training behind them.
So, Commissioners, where we would see some additional savings would be in overtime, where we have to utilize when we have big projects coming on of a similar category. There's a limited number of folks. They have to spend a lot of additional time this overtime, where we can't draw from some of the other testing resources that don't yet have that skill level. So this way we could reduce some of the overtime, have some greater flexibility as we're building some new renewable facilities, doing some work at some stations. We'll be able to move around as the workload requires.
Other questions? We have a speaker?
Yes, we have public speaker Candida Morez.
Mr. Sales, first of all, I want you to know that I have nothing but respect for you, and I apologize if I in any way sound like I'm offending this body, because I have nothing but respect for the job that you perform. But as an advocate for ratepayers, and when somebody sticks their hand in my pocket, they're sticking their hand in the pockets of the ratepayers. So I have an obligation to do my job too, sir. So again, I have no problem apologizing if I speak out at the wrong, inappropriate time. But along with the contracts problem that we've had here, one of the other areas that I've discussed or I've been adamant about is the fact that the hiring at DWP, who do the jobs go to? When I took a look at how many jobs were in the last, 3 years, there was about 2,000 jobs, and where they came from, who the jobs went to. I'm sitting here and I'm hearing this. Sounds great, but are they going to the inner city? Are they going to the valley? Or are they being picked? Are the individuals who are getting these jobs being selected for those positions? So I want to make sure that South Central, East LA, the Valley, all these areas, hopefully some of these jobs end up in these communities. Otherwise, again, the city of Los Angeles is, taking the hit on this, and I would hope that we really take a look at where those jobs are going to. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on item 20? Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Hearing no objections, item 20 passes. I think we're on to filed items. I believe Commissioner Parfrey had a question on filed items.
There was item 21 is postponed?
Yes.
21 was deferred. Yes.
Was approved?
No, deferred.
Deferred.
21 was deferred.
Deferred. Yes, Ms. Santilli, I'm looking at the Accounting and Financial Reporting Division, and I'm looking at the fiscal year-to-date ECAF under collection, and I noticed, and I would like to invite my fellow commissioners to also look at this graph. There is a very sharp increase May into June for actual under collections. Could you describe what's transpired there?
Well, the May to June is estimated at this point. This is the May activity report, but two items is that will potentially cause this increase. We expect higher sales in the month of June, so if the ECAF is set below what it's actually covering our cost, the ECAF under collection is going to go up. And then the other thing is that the ECAF allows for us to recover lost revenue from energy efficiency, and that is calculated once a year and presented to the board, usually in October, and that's recorded in the June actuals to close our books. So those two items are what is anticipated to increase the ECAF under collection for this year.
So, yes, forgive me for misstating that. So the projected under collection in June is slightly north of $150 million.
Correct.
Yeah, this is, I know that we've been having a rate discussion with the public, but at some point, I almost feel as if this, unless this body acts and, puts the ball in other courts, that I could see that we're actually in breach of fiduciary duty. We have to protect the financial health of this institution, and I'm very concerned about the status of our under collections right now. So I just wanted to make that statement publicly.
Fair point. Any other comments on the filed items? Do I need a motion to approve the filed items?
No.
The 15 files?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're
ready to go to closed session.
We'll now recess into closed session, and in accordance with Section 549571 of the California Government Code, we'll report any reportable actions taken therein.
I know you are. I know you are. Okay, well, let's just go see the conference room.
We'll go to the conference room? Okay.
I know what you're.
I know.